Right, so here's a summary, really, of our mineral provinces. So all of those coloured areas, we have world-class mineral deposits in there somewhere for various commodities. Broken Hill, of course, the biggest lead-zinc deposit ever found in terms of size and grade, and still going since the 1880s, still being mined. Murray Basin, and in the last 10 years, enough discoveries in there to make that a world-class mineral sands province. Our coal, of course, and also the Macquarie Arc, where we have home of Cadia, biggest gold mine in Eastern Australia. So there's no doubt we have got world-class deposits that have been going for some time, and I think, well, if you believe gold is where you find it, then we've got more to find. Just having a look here where the talks you're about to hear, where those companies are not totally focused on, but where I think they'll be talking about their projects. And you can see alt resources down here, not in the known coloured bits where we've got known world-class deposits, but it's an exciting greenfields discovery in the terms of the conceptual stage. We were really looking forward to seeing how they go down there. It could open up a new province. The other thing, I had a look last week, one of the other bad sides of having the global downturn is that our ground is contracting. But of course, and we've probably lost about 50% of our ground take-up since 2011. Now, of course, that's not ideal, because the one way you're guaranteed of not making a discovery is not having an explorer on there. And what you can see here in the green, they're historical ELs. That's where we've had tenure in the past, and in the red is our current situation. So you can see a lot of ground available. And so what I thought I'd do is have a look at where we had known resources, where there are identified resources in the ground, and had a look at where they fell outside of our current tenements. And as you can see, just from these numbers around the map, there is a large amount of resources in a whole variety of commodities that are sitting unpegged on the ground. So this provides a great opportunity in the downturn for new players to come on. And our department's off to PDAC next week, where we'll be sort of plugging this theme. And for all explorers, it's a new opportunity. All right, so intuitively we knew New South Wales junior explorers were our lifeblood, but we wanted to get some more facts around that. We were starting to worry that what we saw in the coal and petroleum space in New South Wales was going to bleed over into the metals side of the industry. So we got Minex Consulting to do an analysis of our juniors, their performance, their value to the state. And here's just a summary of some of the results. We're actually getting Richard to update this, so you'll have new figures going up to 2015. He's going to be talking about it at Exploration in the House that's coming up in June. So make sure you're around for that. And there's a lot more to his report than what we're showing here. So when he looked at it July last year, there were over 300 projects in New South Wales, so that can more projects from one company. But majority of those junior companies, 50 of them were at the scoping feasibility stage, and the majority of those were juniors. So the juniors were taking it through from exploration into that feasibility stage, and it's still in there. And 10 out of the last 12 discoveries made in the last 10 years were from junior explorers. So that confirmed what we intuitively knew. And you can see there the distribution of discoveries and commodities and their size from the last 10 years, and that's our total number of deposits found. The other good thing coming out of the report was he looked at the unit cost per discovery in Australia and then had a look at it for New South Wales. And what he found was in Australia, last 10 years, costs you about 129 million to make a discovery. Now, that is very good. That's one of the best in the world when it comes to cost per discovery. In New South Wales, 71 million. So that's a great advantage that we'll be spruiking, that it's actually cheaper to find your deposits here. Now, why? He didn't actually say in the report. I'd like to think it's because we've got such prospective ground and good explorers, but and obviously it's going to be related to your cost of doing business. All right. The other take-home for me from the report was the resilience of the juniors, because we're really looking at how much money do we expect these junior companies to really have when they're going forward into their projects. And he took 100 companies from ASX randomly and had a look at their performance and their life in the last 10 years. And what was encouraging was that the majority of them are still in business, are still in there. A lot of them right now have hit the wall, but they're still there. They're very resilient, still able to do their business because they're such lean machines. The other interesting thing, 28 of them now producers. It is a risky venture for a junior to go to that step, but it was encouraging to see that. Not all was successful, of course, going from a producer and staying in that space after, with the commodity downturns. But to me, that was quite encouraging. And only, 14? Only 6 went, was that 6? Yeah, so only 6 went into administration. We only lost 6 of them out the back door, and 14 of them changed their spots. The other thing that I thought was of interest was he looked at those same 100 companies and had a look over the 10 years at their share price, their value in that time. Now, you could say, 2004 to 2014, yes, that included the mining boom, but remember that also included 2 pretty strong downturns of the GFC and the current one that we're in. So I think it's a fair representation. And what he found was that portfolio, it was very hard to pick a winner in there, but if you took the whole portfolio and took the 100 companies as an index, you actually achieved 60% over those 10 years at about 5% per annum. So, and that was beating the ASX 200. So you're still looking at a value proposition there, just from an equity point of view. All right, the final thing I wanted to talk about, and this is about the need to keep drilling. There is another challenge for the juniors, apart from these fundamental ones, and that is they're getting harder to find and getting more expensive to find. And drilling is the one true test. It's the lie detector. So we're seeing here, this is again from Minex Consulting, a different report this time. There's across the top there is discovery year, and there's the depth down on the y-axis. Obviously, discoveries are getting deeper. There's Richard popping up. There's our average cost that we talked about. There is now the average depth for discovery, 83 metres. 10 years ago, that was 0 to 25 metres. And now, this is the one that we're more concerned with. It's between discoveries, moderate-sized, you're looking at over 500 kilometres of drilling. So you just need to keep drilling. Now, of course, that's not going to apply to everyone. Good explorers on the good ground will get there sooner, but that is the average number of kilometres drilled between discoveries. So, solution, of course, more drilling required. So we've just got to be able to facilitate that and facilitate deeper drilling. So what we're looking at, we're supporting deep exploration technologies. Now, there's no silver bullet anyway, but I'm really excited by some of the things they're doing there. This is their carbon fibre coil tube rig. It does present one option for cheaper, faster drilling into the future. Could be bad news for drillers' assistants, but it's certainly exciting that we're getting R&D in this space that's desperately needed. we've got to keep doing our job as a survey. We've got to keep being better at providing the right type of data in the right places. Technical advances. I think this is a really big one, and we're seeing a lot more of it. We're seeing a lot of improvements in the electromagnetics space for exploration. And I think a couple of our explorers will be talking about that today. And I just noticed last week, White Rock announced results from their electromagnetics, the MIDAS system, and they've come up with what they're looking at. They've got a beautiful epithermal system at surface, and they're looking at the potential of the porphyry that might sit underneath what is a massive caldera in that area. And that's going to be their target for their cooperative drilling funds and their drilling program. So that's very exciting. And of course, the other piece of the puzzle where the government can help is in continuing the cooperative drilling program. We can now announce that we are going to open applications in November for the second round. So we're very excited by that. We're excited by some of the results coming out. Early days still on a lot of them. They do close the drilling programs may not close, but our closure of receipts is in September 16th. However, we're seeing both numerical results, but we're also seeing technical successes coming out already from it. So it is very exciting, and it's great to be a part of that. Right, last slide. Just some events coming up. And this Thursday, Smedge at the rugby club, Chris Torrey, who's in here tonight. G'day, Chris. He's going to be talking about Broken Hill. And so Silver City Minerals have done a complete revisit that this hasn't been looked at. Actually, you'd think Broken Hill, doesn't everyone look at that? Well, no. This hasn't been looked at seriously for at least 10 years now, so that will be very interesting. And that's a great segue for our Broken Hill Resources Symposium that's coming up. You'll see a collection of speakers there that you won't get in the one place anywhere else in the world. Really looking forward to that. We've come in with Kerry Stevenson to provide a technical day associated with that, and that's brought a whole new audience that's spanning that investment to technical audience. So really looking forward to that. Make sure you get there. We've got pamphlets out the front as you walk out as well. You'll be able to grab one of those. Exploration in the House, Exploration Forum. There in June, we have to wait for the results of the election to see who's in, whether it's actually going to happen. But we've locked in those dates in the Parliament House, but we're hoping we'll give you an update if the dates change. And our investment attraction team are putting on our own investment conference in July. And I might leave that there, and Rob can add a little bit more to that. Oh, do you want to do questions? Yeah. So, any questions? Vlad?
Discovery. What does it mean, discovery?
Yeah. So the definition there is a maiden ASX announcement of a maiden resource. So, JORC compliant. Yeah. Arnie? Yeah, so we're currently working, it's a major collaboration project. Yeah, no problem. So Arnie was asking about our Southern Thompson project. This is in northwest New South Wales. It's a completely covered terrain. These are the sort of areas that we're really wanting to tap into. We know there must be deposits there based on what's around and what we know of what's there already. There's already been drilling done by two companies, and they've already had some technical success there. And we are hoping with a whole lot of more data, new surveys of gravity of EM and also magnetotellurics, that we'll actually get even more understanding, and we'll be targeting our own drilling with the DET CRC. So yeah, that's coming up, Arnie. That'll be in 2016. Yeah, Moose. G'day, mate. Which one? Yeah. Oh, that's really good news that the price jumped. I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was a MIMDAS electromagnetic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. I'll pass over to Rob.
Thanks, John, for that summary of where the geosurvey is and the work that's been done over time. Our next speaker is James Anderson from Alt Resources. James has a background in the logistics and supply chain industry and joined the exploration sector in 2011. He's going to talk today around Alt Resources and their flagship Popong mineralised system down in Jindabyne in southern New South Wales. Alt are currently in the process of looking to raise some funds in an IPO, and it's currently underway. But James.
You might have to start this thing for me.
I'll do that.
I'm not very good with them.
No, neither am I, actually.
Well, there we go, look.
And if you just do the arrows on the way.
With this one or this one?
You can do either way.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm James Anderson, I'm the CEO of Alt. Thanks for coming today. I'm going to briefly talk about our project in the southeast Lachlan. But what I'm going to do first off, Wayne's asked me to talk about the IPO proposition. So what I really want to do first is hand over to Russell Fountain. He'll go through the project and what we've discovered so far, where we're heading, what our exploration plans are, and then I'll come in and talk about the IPO and why we think it's a good investment for everyone to get into. So if you'd like to welcome Russell.
Hi. As you can see on the disclaimer, I'm the sucker who is the competent person for both the prospectus and this whatever, so I'm the one that's accountable. James is just the CEO and the guy who discovered it. Alt has been basically formed to explore the Popong deposit. The prospectus is live. This is just going to be a very brief skimming introduction, but there's a whole lot of data available on the website, and so anybody who wants to find out what it's really about, go there. We've got two projects, the flagship at Popong. Jindabyne is there, Dalgety is there, Coomera's just off the map up there. They're located in a little sliver of Ordovician sediments, surrounded by the Berrydale batholith on this side and the Kosciuszko batholith on the other side. It's basically a virgin prospect. When I first got rung up and told that there was a virgin gold discovery down there in May last year, I was highly sceptical. Said I'll go and have a look just in case. And it's one of those things that the more work we do, the more interesting it gets. So it's very nice to come across one of them every now and again after a long time in the business. Why wasn't it found before? Everybody asks that. It's an old exhumed tertiary erosion surface on the Monero tableland. Very little outcrop, very deep weathering, lousy drainage, very fine gold, you can't pan anything, and it's only been subject to two reasonably modern exploration programs, Epoch Minerals in 1969-70 And then BHP in 71 was basically the same people. They graduated from uni and then went to work for BHP. They did stream sediment surveys, only assayed for base metals, and both of them actually found it. Was right on the edge of the BHP survey. They were looking for big porphyry deposits at the time. They didn't assay for gold. And with the slump that came at the end of the MinSec crash, nobody had any money, nobody ever went back. And so how it turned up, if you look on the website, there's a thorough story, but James was doing a project with his son and found a reference in the 1898 Sydney Morning Herald to interesting gold mineralisation in the Litchfield vein, which, being an old punter, he followed up along the line, and it was vacant ground, and a lot of things have happened since then, and we've got a really interesting project in a place where John didn't have anything on his map. The work to date, just after James got into it, the Southeast Lachlan Magnetic Survey was flown in 2010, and those results became available in about 2012, I think, that James got the first copy. There's a very big mag anomaly here, which is associated with what's on the geological map as a blind gabbro, a little gabbro stock. It's turned out to be quite a complex nest of intrusives. And James jumped in as a good logistics man and drilled a few holes in the mapped intrusives. Got nothing, and so I gave some of the rocks to Jane Barron, who's skulking in the back corner here, and she said, "That's no good. Why don't you go out and map the rest of the EL, seeing as you've got it?" And so they sent young Tom out to map the rest of the EL, and the first thing he tripped across on the top of the hill, on the top of the plateau, was a gold-bearing quartz vein, and everywhere we go ever since then we find more of them. At this stage we've done fairly serious work between about here and here. We're expanding the work outwards as we get access agreements with the landowners. Basically, the work is focused on how they started and how we've continued since we started. There's very little outcrop. We've got a huge amount of ground to cover. And so we've basically done selective quartz vein samplings. Virtually all of the outcrops are vein quartz. There's hardly anything else outcropping, a little bit of barren sediment. So these are selective grab samples of the outcropping veins. There's no drilling, so we've got no idea what the true widths are, what the bleaching profile is. But there's a heap of gold. 10% of the samples are basically above 0.9 of a gram in 1,000 samples. The red and orange there are above 3 grams of gold at the surface. That's about 4.5 kilometres wide and 8 kilometres long, so it's spread all over the countryside. So it's a very large target. The thing's anomalous in gold, strongly anomalous in arsenic, silver, bismuth, copper, moly, lead, and less extent zinc, which is probably a leaching phenomenon, but it's very compatible with an igneous source for the mineralisation. Our current targets, they're all hosted in the Ordovician sediments. That's the central area where we've done reasonably detailed mapping. The yellow are sandstones, and the grey are various, and olive are various combinations of siltstones and black shales. We've got structurally controlled quartz veins. We've got several stockwork deposits here and here up at Telfords, which are quite broad targets, and there's more vein mineralisation down here, And over here we haven't done much work, and at Don's we haven't done much follow-up work. There's a real preference for mineralisation in the sandy units, which seems to have acted as brittle hosts for veining. The most advanced part of the area is Kidman Paddock. The top is a geological map showing the map vein. The scale on that map there, it's a 250 metre grid, so we're talking about 2 kilometres across there and 1.5 kilometres north-south. The two systems where we're going to start drilling are Tom's, which is a complex of intersecting structurally controlled quartz veins with some stockwork zones, very poorly exposed, a lot of gold in the surface, and Telford's down here, which is a very poorly outcropping area, which is the only float and outcrop is stockwork quartzite with gossamer stockwork quartz veins in it. Which coincides with quite a good low-order chargeability anomaly in the that's this down here in the quartzite, which normally has very low chargeability. These high chargeability zones up here are basically graphitic shales and pyritic shales, which make the geophysical interpretation quite tricky. But you can see down here where we've got map veins, we've got a chargeability response going down there. When it goes through the shale, the same structural system actually reduces the chargeability in a relative sense compared to the shales that it's going through. And so this is very close-spaced 50 by 20 gradient array IP, and we found that really useful for extending our mapping where we can't see anything. And we've got basically 3,000 metres of drilling planned, hopefully to start about the end of March, just on this prospect alone. The other key bit about the thing as it's evolved, we've now located 15 separate intrusive bodies in this same zone, which range in composition from fresh gabbro through micromonzonite to thoroughly altered quartz diorite porphyries. The bit that really excites me, if you look at this, and this, which is this body here, this little body here, and this body up here, they show absolutely the style of fracturing and pervasive alteration. They're quartz porphyries that's characteristic of porphyry-style mineralisation everywhere, which I've basically worked on for 45 years throughout my career. The things that are showing on the aeromag are these things, which are going to be a really good source of dimension stone for the project when we build it. No jointing, very little alteration, and no mineralisation, and they appear to post-date the mineralisation, but there's a long way to go in sorting that out. I mean, we haven't really scratched the surface of that thing. We only discovered these mineralised porphyries in the last 6 months, and so that's really got us fired up about what's happening. So the future targets and where we're going, this is sort of the limit of processing that we can do on the 250 metre aeromag. Filtered out the deep stuff, and we're looking at the more near surface response. You can see there's any amount of structure. There's a big structural corridor that runs up here, and everything in that zone seems to trend pretty well north-south. The key thing, that this is the blind gabbro and all the other intrusives. These things up here are obvious related intrusives of that sort, but the mineralising type intrusives that we've sorted out since then are here and here and here and down here with no magnetic response at all, and they appear to be early in the sequence. But there's a huge amount of structure, and getting to the bottom of it's going to take a reasonable amount of work. But with the veining at the surface, we've got a really good set of immediate drill targets. The other project we've got is Myala, which is south of Cooma. It's in very similar rocks. This is a small window of quite strongly folded Ordovician turbidites, the same host rocks as we have, but at a higher metamorphic grade. It was previously drilled by Southern Gold back in around 1980. Fairly scratchy drilling performance, and we've got 2 intercepts there, and we're not quite sure which one the assay applies to. But there's certainly gold there in massive sulfides, and the host rocks are fairly similar, even though further upgrade. And so what we plan to do there is just re-drill some of this and do some downhole EM to see how far it goes. I mean, it's very, very under-tested property. So we see the targets within our thing. We've got high-grade vein-hosted gold, silver, plus or minus base metal mineralisation, bulk low-grade base metal mineralisation, the Telford's type stockwork and or gold. And we think there's porphyry, particularly porphyry gold or gold copper, associated with these little pencil porphyries that we haven't sorted out yet. If you look at where they fit on the broad scheme of things with the other Ordovician mineralisation in New South Wales, we have the Gilmore Suture going down here. Our friends from the survey swear that it stops about here. If you look at the regional magnetic map, you can make a really good argument for it coming up again down there. And so watch this space. Something else is going to happen about that. Our drilling program, provided the float gets off, we'll drill it anyway. We've got a very nice grant from the State Drilling Fund, and we plan to start drilling pretty soon. But if we get our money in the float, we're looking at, in the first year, 5,000 metres of RC and 1,200 metres of diamond drilling. We have targets and drill approvals for that already. A detailed aeromag survey to help us with the mapping. That's 50-metre line spacing. IP gradient array, and then deeper looking IP to help with the mapping. And a regional BLEG survey, because that's never been done in this part of the world, to screen the other parts of the property. So it's all happening. And I'll give you back to James to say how he's going to raise the money for us to do that. I'll spend it, all right?
Thanks, Russell. So as you can see, we have got quite an interesting project going, and we'd like to thank the government, especially the Geological Survey. We were one of the recipients of the grant, and I think our company in White Rock got the top amount of $200,000. So I think that's quite a banner of support for what we're doing down there. I think they'd like to know what's going on equally as much as we would. So our plans really are to move forward as fast as we can. We've come into the market in an IPO in probably the worst time you could ever probably take an IPO to the market. It's a perfect storm, really. But we think the project really stands on its own. I think that, there are risk investors out there that are quite selective now, and I think that if they see a good project with a good board and solid exploration base and good planning and good management, I think that there is money that will come for it. We're very lucky in being in New South Wales. One of the key things that people have asked me is this project going to get away? Even if you get the money, will it get developed? And as we've heard, New South Wales is actually a safe investment environment. We're in a low sovereign risk place. I think about some of the investments I've had over the years in countries of third world environments where there's endemic corruption, and West Africa, for example. Now you've got the Ebola crisis there. I watched Resolute shares fall from $2.10 down to 30 cents on a insurrection in Mali, and so there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of fear in the marketplace from investors in sovereign risk environments. I think they want to get out of that. They've been burnt over the years, and they're looking for safe investments. So New South Wales is that. It's a safe place for investment. We've got a great approvals process in place. Despite all the stuff that's been going on, there's legislated approvals and project pathways. And all you've got to do is follow the pathway, and you will get approval for the project. Charlie Bass asked me the other day, do you think it'll get approved if, we find a resource? And I said, yes, I think it will. It's all the guidelines are there. The single biggest problem with development approval is, really failure to consider all the relevant factors when you put in an application for either drill permits, for example, or if you want to develop your project, you fail in your environmental impact statement or your due diligence, whatever. And, in some cases that failure can be on the part of the government. They fail in their due diligence process. So, things are challenged, always a challenge in getting any exploration or mining project off the ground and getting it to a stage where you're actually digging it up. I think that we've got the drill support grant. We've got approvals in place already, 100 drill holes, and we've got another 60 pending. So, to get to that point where you get drilling approval, that's a process in itself. You've got to file an REF, which is a review of environmental factors, and halfway through last year, there was a new thing came out, the agricultural impact statement, which was an addendum to an REF. So, to get drilling approval, you've got to comply with a lot of, government regulations. So this is a turnkey operation. It's ready to go. As soon as the IPO is away, we'll start drilling holes in the ground. Basically, we don't have to wait for anything. So we've got, as Russell has identified, a new system. We found something that no one else has found. So we're in a part of the state where there is no exploration data. We don't have packages of stuff that we can go through. We've been out there for 4 years on the ground nutting this out ourselves. We haven't known anything. We're a junior exploration company. We're privately funded. So we've been out there bashing away by ourselves, spending our own money. To date we've spent $1.5 million of our own funds to get this off the ground. So, I think from a management perspective, our view is that it is our money. Someone who invests with us, we're very careful how we spend our dollars. So we know they're hard to get. So we try and get as much bang for dollar as we can. So we went down this pathway of an IPO because we wanted a clean company. You see lots and lots of floats going through now, backdoor listings, all this sort of stuff. But, inherently those kind of things, in my view, you've got a company that has failed in its exploration, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of disgruntled investors who have lost their money. So, we went down a pathway with an IPO as it's clean. It's, the idea was we didn't want any disgruntled investors in our company. We wanted new investors that want to make a discovery. So, in that process, we've paid for that. That was $500,000. If anyone's ever done an IPO, it's not a cheap exercise, let me tell you. So we don't owe anybody any money. We've got money in the bank. We've got some nice cornerstone investors that come into our business, and we're basically ready to go. We've got a terrific board of directors. Again, very experienced. Russell Fountain's our technical director. Jane Barron is our director. Neva Collings is another director. She's key to our operations. She's an environmental lawyer. And if any of you have done business here in New South Wales, you'll know that environmental issues are a significant factor. And, the pathway through that is very, very difficult in some stages. So she's key to our operations in that regard and will be key going forwards. So everyone else has asked me, why now? Why are we going into the market now? We don't really have a choice. We're going to the marketplace with a good project in a difficult market, trying to get money to drill holes in the ground. As I said, it's a turnkey operation. We just need the money to start drilling. I spoke to James Posnett at the ASX last week about this. I was fascinated to know how many IPOs that had been successful, in the last 4 or 5 years. Some very interesting statistics here for you. At the top of the mining boom, we had, I think it was about 75, something like that. So that's 6 IPOs a month. Like average, 3, 4 million, 5 million, whatever. A lot of money for exploration. But in looking at that, I sort of drilled down a bit deeper and I had a look into the companies, or some of the companies. And what I found, or what I noticed, was that a lot of these companies were just rebadged, rebundled things, like old exploration, historical, lots and lots of stuff. Companies that failed, someone's picked them up, put them all together, put a new badge on, gone out and flogged it to the market. And they've got away. And I don't know how many of them are still alive, but at that point in time, they did get away. Then the next year, you look at, I think, 2012? 35 IPOs. So, the GFC's hit, the mining boom sort of waning, so 35 IPOs, so a bit more discerning marketplace. And then 2013, we're down to 14. 2014, you're down to 8. Now, what does that tell you about the marketplace? To me, that tells me that, okay, if you've got an ordinary project, you're not going to get any support from anybody in any parts of the market. I'll just take one of those IPOs because I know about it, because Roger Steiner Price managed our IPO for us, and he also managed Staveley's. So that we'll talk about Staveley. As an investment proposition, if you bought into Staveley's IPO and you sold out at its peak, 60, 65 cents? Okay, you've walked away with a double bagger. That's not a bad investment from an IPO position. As far as I'm concerned, you put in 100, you walk away with 300. It's not a bad deal. So out of those 8 companies, all of them got away. But, they weren't huge amounts of money. They were probably, 3, 4, 5 million, 6 million. And basically, they were companies that had pretty good projects. So there is a risk market out there. People are looking for projects that are good, and I think that ours is one of those. So what's the investment upside? Like anything, you all want to make money. That's the whole idea of you investing in this thing. So from a short-term perspective, okay, we've got a share price upside, anticipation of drill results and the drilling outcomes. As Russell said, we've got some terrific drill targets, and we've been on the ground for 4 years. We've got a pretty good idea what's in the ground. We've got some high-grade gold veins. We've got some good IP. I'd say there's a fairly good chance that we're going to get some intercepts in our first drill holes. You can't say that unequivocally, but I think we're a pretty good chance. So, we've got, if our IPO gets away, we've got 12 to 18 months continuous drilling. So, from an investor standpoint, everyone wants news flow. You really want to hear what's going on with your project. So, we're going to have continuous exploration, and we'll continue our IP targeting. One of our operational procedures with our company is that we've used lots of contractors in the past, and if you've ever been in this space, exploration is an expensive thing. And so what we've done is, we've actually bought the equipment ourselves. So we own our own IP equipment, and we really run our own projects that way. We've got our own staff and our own gear, so we're cost effective in our surveying. So we think we've got further discovery prospects. Long-term investment, mine production. There's globally, mine production's gone from 5% to 2%. So, you're looking at companies extending run of mine life. They're not looking for new projects. They're not going into things. They're not spending their capital. So, there's a shortfall. These companies are going to look for projects to go to upstream. There's going to be a big shortage of projects for mid-tier and larger miners to go into because no one's finding anything. So we see that's a long-term benefit. Potential for the mineralised porphyry. Okay, you all know that. The gold veins are nice and the high grade, but really if we drill into a porphyry, it's all over. That's basically a company-making event. So that has the potential. We don't know exactly if we're going to do that, but we're feeling fairly confident that we may have a good chance. So, larger producer, upstream project, and a pathway to development through good governance in New South Wales. So, our capital structure is this. Following the completion of the IPO is summarised. We have tradable shares. We've raised 1.4 million in pre-IPO funds, so we have quite a few shares on issue, only 44 million. But of those, there's only 8.1 million shares that are actually tradable. The rest are escrowed for 12 or 24 months. So a market cap between 11.5 and 13 million. For this kind of project, how do you say how much a project like this is worth? It's just sheer guesstimation. So we think with what we've spent, what our IPO money is, what our data is, and what we're going to raise, that this is not an unreasonable market capitalisation. And that's about it from us. I can see Wayne's over there eagerly going, next presenter. So thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much, James, and good luck with the IPO. Next up, we have another recipient of Cooperative Drilling Program in Impact Minerals, and Mike Jones has a long history in the industry, working for Western Mining and a number of others over the years. Impact Minerals is focused on the 3 flagship projects in Australia, 2 of them in New South Wales, the Broken Hill Joint Venture and the Commonwealth project, and one in Western Australia, the Mulga Tank project. Welcome, Mike, and please welcome Mike to the stand.
Thanks, Robert. If I wasn't feeling old from running this company, I'm certainly feel old now after being such an extensive, long history in the business. Do I need to get this going? Do you want to just set that up? A great talk from John, and obviously with ALT there, I sort of feel like I've come to El Dorado. I live in Perth, but come to New South Wales, there's just outcropping mineral fields that are just there to be pegged. The government's throwing money at you to go and explore. I mean, it's what a fantastic state. I know, and here we are in the government offices, one of the best views in the world. So it's fantastic. I know. Well, we're here. And as Robert said, look, we have 3 projects. I'm only going to talk about the 2 that we have in New South Wales, Broken Hill and Commonwealth. There's really, to summarise the horror that we have been through, is our share price over the last sort of 14 months. We were at about 10 cents sort of December 2013, and it's just been a death by 1,000 cuts since then. We've actually been very active for a junior. We have kept spending money. We've been rewarded with good results. We've been rewarded with government funding for a number of our drill programs. We have not yet been rewarded, of course, in the share market. But one thing I can say is if we had sat on our backsides and not done anything, our share price would probably be 1/10 that it is at the moment, and that's really the state of affairs. But I think the effects of the iron ore price and the oil price, we're seeing a big washout. This has got to be the bottom. We're bouncing along, and we've got this is the opportunity of a lifetime for those of us that didn't make any money in the first mining boom because we were a bit slow off the mark. Here's your chance this time round. There are just so many good companies, so many good projects out there that if you're discerning, this is the time you're going to make a fortune in the next few years. And there's nowhere better to put your money than an Impact, in my view. We will get a good run. Just very quickly, we're still, although we have a lot of shares in issue, that's the price you pay. If you want to keep active, you do have to dilute. We've done our best. We've done some reasonable raisings at for us, good prices, around about the 3.5 cents. We're sitting at 2 at the moment. But we are very tightly held still, with a good sort of 45% of the shares in the hands of people who won't be selling. And that was certainly reflected in the run-up we had in December. Some sniffs of some high-grade nickel, and we tripled, within a period of a few days. So it's still there. The dream is still alive, and we're hoping that that dream comes true at Broken Hill. It's a joint venture with Golden Cross Resources, which, being from New South Wales, most of you will have heard about. We're sitting at about 85% of that project, and we're looking for nickel, copper and platinum in Broken Hill, which, as we heard, has got the largest silver, lead, zinc deposit in the world, but it's not as well known. But there are many small but very high-grade prospects for platinum, nickel and copper that have been known about for many years over sort of a 50-kilometre belt, only between 10 and 15 kilometres outside of Broken Hill, most of the exciting prospects. And we've been focused very much in two areas, at Red Hill and also at Platinum Springs. Now, Platinum Springs was of interest because it had one of the highest grade drill intercepts of platinum and palladium in Australia, 2 metres at 11 grams platinum, 23 grams palladium, 6% nickel and 4% copper. This is quite a small showing. They drilled around it, couldn't find anything nearby, but we certainly were attracted by that when we bought this project. And what we're looking for at Red Hill is something like the Eagle deposit, which is in North America. It's modest in size, 5 million tonnes, but it's nearly 4% nickel and 3% copper. And we think perhaps we found the edges of one of these in our first drill program, which was very kindly funded by the New South Wales government. We won that award late last year, and we started drilling within sort of 4 or 5 weeks, really, of receipt of that money. And we've come up with some good results so far. This is what we're actually drilling. It doesn't take a PhD in geology that I've got to drill underneath some old workings. But what had happened was that we'd done quite a lot of work here for some very detailed mapping, rock chip sampling, and soil sampling in detail over this intrusion here, which is about 500 metres north to south through here. And here are the old workings around the edge, and some very high-grade copper, nickel and PGE was mined here back in the early 1900s. Only about 500 tonnes, but sort of 2 to 4% copper, up to 3% nickel, over an ounce of platinum, and interestingly a couple of ounces of silver. Never been drilled, or so we thought, but during our research we found 2 CRA drill holes from 1969, so it's 45 years ago now. Had actually been drilled sort of supposedly underneath these workings, but our detail work said, well, maybe they've drilled in the wrong direction. So we actually came back and we've drilled our holes basically from south to north, whereas the 2 CRA ones were from north to south. And here was the drill rig, just to show the government we did actually spend their money. This is a real rig, and it's a real invoice you're going to get. So, we're very lucky. We spectacular weathered and fresh nickel copper sulfides in the first drill hole, and very interestingly, much thicker than the veins that have been mined at Red Hill itself. So looking at a cross section, we're looking west. This is can't see my eyes because I've been in the business too long. What is that? 25 metres, yeah. And we've drilled 2 holes. They're quite close together, but we wanted to make sure of the dip. So the 2 CRA holes, which I've yet to put on here, actually finished around about here, and we're drilling sort of parallel to this dip that we've now established, and stopped here, literally only 10 or 20 metres away from the mineralisation. Here's the old mine, and only about 4 to 5 metres wide. But we've now got these 2 drill holes here, and these are 25 and 30 metre true width intercepts as far as we can establish. And within those zones, they're bulk mineable widths, and then within them we've got some really special grades in through here. We've got 5 metres at 1.1% copper, 1% nickel, and 3.4 grams PGEs, plus gold in here, and then underneath that a thicker, higher grade zone. We've got nearly 14 metres at just over 1% copper, less nickel, but look at that, 6 grams PGEs in there. And then here we've got, again I can't read it, my memory's not that good, so there we go, 4.2 metres at 2.6 copper, 0.5% nickel and 10 grams PGEs. Now I actually had a well-known PGE consultant call me up, and he actually said these are actually some of the best PGE grades ever seen in Australia. So, and we're pretty confident that we've got the true dip now, and we're going to be heading back to have a look at this. We've got a downhole EM crew. We'll finish a survey on Wednesday, and we've already got, from the first phase of work they did, there's some sort of anomaly here. We're now trying to sort of pinpoint it, and what we're hoping is that we're going to see something like this massive sulfide here, and this is the sort of juicy stuff that, if you can get it, will be possibly some super grades of this type of response, if we can find a bigger version of it. This is just to show you this deposit I mentioned previously called Eagle, 5 million tonnes. It's an intrusion that's about the same size as Red Hill, but it goes down about 250, 300 metres, and there's a big chunk of massive sulphide at the base of this thing, a few hundred metres below surface, and we're thinking that maybe what we found is a chute, some sort of remobilised slab of this material that's come off at the edge near surface. Because I should have pointed out previously in that cross-section that all of this is sort of within the top 60 or 70 metres. So look, those are cracking intercepts. If we get more of those, we'll know very quickly if we have a real big discovery on our hands. Just to show you another similarity with with Eagle in North America, this is the magnetic data over it, and it's just a small blip. This is about 1 kilometre through here, and we've got at Red Hill, nice magnetic intrusion. These are the drill holes. We've drilled this little area here, and we can see that it's about the same size as the Eagle intrusion. And so whilst it might look small, and that's really what's put everyone off before, they didn't seem to think that small intrusions could host big deposits. But as we know from, for example, porphyry coppers, you only need a pencil with the right mineralisation around it, and boom, you can be in. So we're super excited, and we should be drilling again probably within about 6 to 8 weeks. We'll have to go through the environmental approvals process again. That's the only delay once we get the EM back. We're also drilling an EM anomaly just off to the north here. We missed it in the first hole. We've now identified that quite spectacularly. It's a very significant electromagnetic anomaly, possible massive sulphide, and we think that might be, again, nickel copper that's been remobilised off out into the wall rocks there. So, look, thanks to the government. It's been a fantastic, outcome for us and for the government. And, congratulations to you. I did say to John, one extra slide he could have done was to see what's happened in South Australia, who pioneered all these gifts to resource companies. They transformed their business, their entire economy within 10 years by handing out money to companies like ourselves who, as John pointed out, committed, genuine explorers who you can trust with your money. Just to finish off, Commonwealth project, there are a few more slides here. It's near Dubbo in New South Wales. It's a beautiful area, and the mineralisation that we've found and firmed up is sort of lying in this valley here at the base of this wooded slope. And again, it is a case of the more work we've done here, there's sort of outcropping mineralisation just sort of dripping out of the hillside, basically. We're in the Lachlan Fold Belt to the north of Cadia, about 100 kilometres north, and it is a very good spot to be. Local population very supportive. Now, when we obtained the licence, and if you haven't heard the story before, we purchased these two, in fact all three projects we have from David Timms, who's sitting in the audience, a well-known geologist in this area. David did a fantastic job at putting these projects together, and we were fortunate enough to be able to take them from David and his group, and in exchange for shares, and we've moved on with them very considerably. So it's all credit really to David that who got these projects together. This was a historic base metal and precious mine, a Commonwealth mine, but basically there's been very little work done since the early 1900s. In the 70s and 80s, there were about 66 drill holes drilled in through here over a 200-metre strike extent. And we've done a lot of work, in particular last year, looking for what are called volcanogenic massive sulphides. So what we're looking for is really a lens of high-grade sulphide, which is here. We've got iron sulphides, zinc sulphides, copper sulphides in through here. These ones in particular are zinc and lead rich, but commonly these will also move to be copper rich in different places. And underneath that, we have these sort of what we call stringer zones, which are lower grade, but add bulk tons in through here. And both of those exist at Commonwealth. And when you find one of these, it is very certain that you'll also find other ones along strike and around. And that's certainly what we seem to be seeing now at Commonwealth. So most of our work is also focused in close to the old Commonwealth mine, really only over sort of 400 metres of strike. We've done a whole lot of work. There's been geochemistry, and we've been able to extend the strike of the anomalous unit by 300 to 400 metres and a couple of kilometres to the north. We've got some very nice geophysical anomalies, big deep IP anomalies, very similar to the ones we heard about White Rock. We've got a fantastic one of those suggesting there's some porphyry copper potential at depth. So we've drilled into the old resource, into the old mine, and along strike. And what we're showing here is sort of a 3D view of the host unit, and we've got these sort of lenses of sulphide shown here in the orange. And you can see they're sort of cut out at a certain depth. That's only about 60, 70 metres below surface, and that's because there's been very little drilling into the unit below. It's not very clear here, but there's only a handful of drill holes below, sort of 60, 70 metres below surface. And we've been able to come out last week with our maiden resource. So we've made it over John's first threshold, but we weren't funded for the government for this one as it was an existing area. 720,000 tonnes, basically just under 5 grams gold equivalent. 110,000 ounces of gold equivalent in this calculation. You can read how we did the calculation. But it's a gold and zinc-rich ore body with some lead and silver and copper. But importantly, this includes the high-grade massive sulphide that we talked about, plus the stringer low-grade mineralisation. And if you look at what happened actually in the high-grade lens, that it's 145,000 tonnes at actually 10 grams gold equivalent. So almost half the amount of gold equivalent is in there is actually in a very small part of the deposit. And there are the details. It's very zinc-rich. And so the skill now comes in actually finding more of these lenses, and that's really what we've been focused on over the last 6 to 8 months. And we've got at least a dozen targets now to go and have a look at. So at this sort of value in through here, I reckon we're 1/10 of the way to a mine, and we've explored probably 2% of the area. So we're going to have a very good chance now of moving forward to finding something. I'll point out that rule of thumb, for those of you who want to know if anything's actually going to get off the ground, especially underground, you need about 1,000 ounces per vertical metre to form a good underground mine. And we've got 1,000 ounces per vertical metre from surface. So this is going to be a very profitable starter pit. So we've got 110,000 ounces in the top sort of 70, 80, 90 metres. So it's about 1,000 ounces per vertical metre. This pit will be a fantastic starter pit if we can find the next part of it. I won't dwell on this, but this is a long section. We're looking at basically zones of high-grade mineralisation shown in purple, and this is basically the area of the resource. So all of that area in the pink, the purple, the pink and the orange is in the resource. And you notice that at the edges here, along strike, here, at depth and here, that this thing is open, it's not been closed off. And in particular here, we've had a spectacular drill result. Find it, here we go, 7 metres at 25 grams gold, 62 grams silver, 3.8% zinc and 1.3% lead. And this includes 4 metres at 41 grams over an ounce. And this is in a new massive sulphide lens that wasn't known about before. So we found one here, and we think we've got the edges of another one here where we had some two very good intercepts here, 2 metres at 6 grams gold, a couple of ounces of silver, nearly 4% zinc, 3% lead, and a second zone underneath it, again, 4 metres at 6 grams gold, 25 grams silver. These are spectacular results, and sort of reflected in this model of the resource that was put together. So basically this is main shaft, and you can see this is the old mine, so we've taken that out. It's not been included in the resource, it's been mined out. And we've got some nice high-grade blocks here, 5 gram material shown in the purple. And you can see that the edge of the resource over here, we've now got a very significant new start of what we think is a new massive sulphide lens, and potentially at depth as well through here. So by finding these lenses, we've got the potential to add ounces and grade very quickly. And we think that this is what we might be able to find. If you've been following Heron Resources recently, some spectacular results at depth at Woodlawn, again here in the land of fabled riches of New South Wales. Woodlawn was mined for many years, but there's a huge resource still preserved here, and there's probably at least 3.5 million ounces of gold equivalent under there. They're getting some spectacular results, and when you consider that that's the average drill depth at Commonwealth, you can see that we have the potential to really smash this, as the Generation Y say nowadays. Standing back, just to finish off with, main shaft and Commonwealth South are here. At Silica Hill, we've identified a VMS system now that we think is at least 10 times bigger than this one here. We're on the outskirts of it, drilled a couple of holes into here, some very interesting rocks and alteration that we've seen there, and we've now extended our surveys to cover that area and also out to the north. We've got some very significant copper geochemistry to the north. This is about 2 kilometres now from here. We've completed some IP and gravity, which we're processing at the moment, but I can tell you we've got some white rock-like IP anomalies sitting in through here at the centre of this area here. There's a very characteristic shape to this, which is a copper-rich halo, and then basically a copper poor core. And also generally weak in other metals, and that's a very characteristic donut shape that we see over the top of porphyry coppers. So we're very excited about doing some deep drilling there. And talking of donuts at this time of the day is never a good thing, because we're all starving, hungry, trying to stay awake until the end of the talks. So you can look forward to a lot of activity again. Broken Hill, follow-up drilling basically as soon as we can, should be early in the next quarter, and then pushing along Commonwealth. I've got all the results of our geophysics to come out, and we'll be doing some more geochemistry, but again, follow-up drill program in Q3 of this year. And there you have it. One of the many opportunities you have to invest going forward, but impact. You're going to be seeing a lot of news from us over the next few months, and hopefully a discovery. So thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Mike, and some good results there, and hopefully some a lot of drilling to do. Next, we have Michael Liu from Sovereign Gold. Sovereign have a number of intrusion-related gold systems that they're targeting, and one in the New England area, the Halls Peak project, which we'll hear about. Yeah.
Close to getting back on schedule.
Is that just a forwards and backwards when you get to it?
Yeah, just forward and back.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Top secret password.
Perfect. What it looks like. And just press the and then just say welcome. Yep, perfect.
Thanks for that.
That's all right.
Thanks.
Yeah, no trouble. Here we go.
So I'm replacing Michael. I'll explain.
no trouble. Yeah. And after that brief interlude, we now have Sovereign and Simon Bird to tell us all about it.
Thank you very much for that. As you pointed out, my name's Simon Bird, not Michael Liu. Michael is our Chief Geologist. If you put your hand up, Michael will be available to answer questions. I've been tasked, effective today, with turning around Sovereign Gold. And I thought I'd take it on, given we've got this wonderful opportunity to present by the New South Wales Government, that I'd take it on myself. You'll be pleased to know though, I won't be subjecting you to two presenters like our predecessors did. But Michael is certainly available to discuss geological aspects of it immediately afterwards. So thank you to the New South Wales Government. I'm representing Sovereign Gold, or SOC, which is our ticker. And of particular focus today, I want to talk about the Mount Adra Gold project. We have the usual disclaimer. And we've taken the liberty to demonstrate strong compliance by providing a mineral resource statement. And thank you, John, you give me a free kick on my first day, that we do have a resource which should move us up the curve fairly quickly. That resource estimate is 770,000 ounces of gold, 440,000 of which are indicated, the balance inferred. Further JORC 2012 compliance note. This is a short list of ASX announcements that cover details that I'll be going through in the presentation. So Sovereign Gold, quick snapshot. Obviously ASX listed, SOC is the ticker, just over 300 million shares, very reasonably priced today. And three key assets. Very pleased to be here, as all three are in New South Wales. We have the Halls Peak project up in northern New South Wales, which is a base metals deposit focus, looking at silver, zinc, lead and copper. And feel a bit embarrassed after the other companies' government grants, but we're certainly delighted to have the 90,000 that the New South Wales Government has granted us on those tenements. We also have the Rocky River project, also in northern New South Wales, where we have a partner, Sujek, who are funding all the exploration program at the moment. And again, we're delighted that the New South Wales Government has stumped up a drilling grant. That program is about a third of the way through the overall exploration program, and ultimately could earn our partners up to 45% of the project. Just to give you a little bit of context here. So all three are in New South Wales. Halls Peak up in the New England region, as is Rocky River, which is an intrusive related gold system, along with Mount Adra down in southern New South Wales, in the Lachlan, Oregon. Mount Adra is what I wanted to focus on today, because that's the most exciting and relevant, I believe, of our three projects. The main focus of the Mount Adra Gold Project is around the Hobbs Pipe 1. I've already touched on the resource that we have there, but what we're focusing on now is completing a scoping study where we're looking forward to demonstrating the viability of a small open cut to exploit that Hobbs Pipe. But simultaneously, we've been looking at other discoveries, and in the middle column there you can see from recent announcements that we've had some excellent outcomes, excellent discoveries of narrow vein reefs in and around the Hobbs Pipe, immediate vicinity, but also in other areas not too far from the Hobbs Pipe. We're also actively looking for Hobbs Pipe lookalikes, both in the immediate vicinity of Hobbs Pipe 1 and further up and down the Gilmore Suture, down as far as Bangadang. You saw a very similar version of this picture in an earlier presentation, makes it easy for me, because it does demonstrate that this project is very well located, being right on the Gilmore Sutra. And in fact, on the same structure system as several world-class gold and base metals mines. As you can see, Newcrest's Cadia, Barrick's Cowell, as well as Peak Hill and North Parks. I'm sorry we didn't have your project a bit further down, but but it is an excellent location for gold in particular. We're also blessed with very good logistics. As John mentioned in his earlier presentation, New South Wales is very well set up, but particularly this area. We're only 400 odd kilometres from Sydney, and we're very close to excellent roads, power, as well as being blessed with a supportive community and access to skills and services that you would expect in the quest to develop a mine. The tenements that we have, some 690 square kilometres, are both large and well situated, as they encompass all the key target areas. And you can see on that graph there, they cover obviously the Mount Adra Hobbs Pipe as the focal point, but also up and down the Gilmore Sutra, as far as Diggers Creek, and then down south to Bangadang, that I mentioned earlier. The focus point, though, is the Hobbs Pipe one, and here's a picture of the Hobbs Pipe from the Hobbs Pipe model, but coincidentally we've positioned it just under the photograph that you can see at the top, which is actually where the drill rig was on the top of the Hobbs Pipe. So the Hobbs Pipe does actually come out onto that hill. Not quite to scale, but that's the way it is. The key points to make on this are, we've obviously got the JORC resource that I talked about earlier, which was the result of a number of drill holes, but one in particular, drilled in July 2013, shows that this ore body continues at depth, given the JORC resource finishes at, Michael, about 700 metres, and this drill hole down to almost 900 metres demonstrated that the ore body continues, and as importantly, we're confident that the pipe has a consistent diameter of about 160 metres. What we've decided as a company is, in order to generate early cash flow and become a producer sooner rather than later, the focus will be, and the focus is, with our scoping study, to demonstrate the viability of a small open cut down to about 150 metres, which essentially involves lopping the top off the hill that you see in the picture. Small open cut, into a very low capex, simple process to take it, to crush, grind and float into a gold sulfide concentrate. We're confident that we can, otherwise we wouldn't be doing the scoping study, we're confident that we can demonstrate that that's viable at today's prices, with a view to having the potential of a producing mine, about a 10-year mine life, and approaching 17,000 ounces of gold, which we believe is a realistic ambition. However, in addition to the scoping study on that small open cut, work continues, led by Michael largely. Work continues on high-grade reefs and potential pipes, both in the immediate vicinity of Hobbs and further up and down the Gilmore Sutra, all based on this Mount Adra model. that you see on the screen now. Michael could speak more competently than me on these two slides, but Michael, who's been involved with these exploration efforts for a considerable length of time, has developed drill-ready targets based on these geochemical gold soils, as well as geophysical IP anomalies. And he can certainly expand on anything for those who are interested after my talk, and we've got copies of these presentations to hand out when I've finished this. So that related to the immediate vicinity. We've also had other targets up and down the Gilmore Sutra, north to Diggers Creek and south to Bangadang. Over the last 12 months, Julian Malnick has been actively involved with Mount Adra and has actually led the charge on not only improving our understanding of the deposit around Mount Adra, but down as far as Bangadang. And Julian and his team have had success in particular down at the Southern Cross Reef Mine. This is one of many old mines in that Bangadang area, and you can see there the results of an intersection, 3-metre intersection, as well as a 2-metre section of that. What that's provided us with is some very encouraging or some terrific walk-up, low-cost drill targets. We've got our own drill rig and we'll be able to get in there very quickly. I said I'd be quick and there's only one speaker. So what's next? Hopefully that gave you enough of an overview of what assets we have, and I hinted on what we're actually working on. The immediate priorities are to conclude the scoping study that we expect will demonstrate the viability of a small open cut with a simple process to produce concentrate, marketable concentrate, whilst continuing Michael's efforts with respect to narrow vein targets and looking for Hobbs lookalike targets, including Ni-Cu-PGE, which is down in the Bangadang area. So those activities are going to carry on in earnest, and my role in all of this is I essentially have a corporate and finance background. My role in all of this is to assist in providing the appropriate structure, funding and management around delivering these strategies. Just in conclusion, I obviously would encourage anyone to please introduce themselves to myself and Michael afterwards. And I'm certainly optimistic from what I've read. The current outlook for gold in 2005 is very promising. The quality of our assets I'm very impressed with, and the team that we have, particularly on the exploration side of things. And by all indications, particularly the government grants, by all indications New South Wales is open for business, and I very much look forward to updating you on our progress over the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and we look forward to hearing progress on Mount Adra. Next up, we have David Busch from Argent Minerals. Argent's major project in New South Wales is the Kempfield lead silver zinc project, and in central west New South Wales near Orange. We look forward to hearing more about it.
These arrows here.
Yeah, exactly.
And the light, the laser is. The red button. So, there we are, we're in business. Get that up. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Department of Trade and Investment, for inviting us here today to talk about Argent Minerals. I'll just leave the disclaimer up there for a few minutes and there'll be a test later on that, okay? A quick snapshot of Argent Minerals with its share structure at 177 million shares. There's a reason why we've been able to keep the dilution down in the company. I'll come to that in a little bit of a while. We're proud of our record in that. The share price is also very attractive, around about the 3 cent level. Market cap very understated at $5 million. And we've also been particularly active in issuing options, which have been part of the reason for keeping the dilution of the shares down as we've managed the company from an initial listing at April 2008. The board of directors is lean, mean and hungry. There are 3 directors. I'm the executive director, 2 non-executives. Steve Gamble is a mining engineer with a lot of experience in getting projects off the ground. I also am a qualified engineer and have a background in investment banking as well as working for people like BHP in the mining industry. Marcus Michael is also a corporate finance guy, and he runs a company, Marshall Michael, who does our corporate finance and our accounting. Dr. Vladimir David, can you put your hand up, please? He's our geologist. Fortunate to have Vlad on board as our key geo. Vlad was instrumental in discovering the Hera resource, in fact drilled the first 4 holes. So I've got a team with a track record. 3 projects, headed up by Greenfield. That's our flagship project that's 100% owned by Argent Minerals. It has recently been upgraded to a polymetallic project featuring zinc, lead, silver, gold and possibly also some copper. West Wyalong is the second of our 2 company maker projects that are indicated by the red star. It's recently been increased to 51% interest by Argent Minerals following a nice magnetic anomaly that was discovered indicative of a porphyry copper gold target. So we'll come to that a little bit later. I'm just going to focus mainly on Greenfield and we'll just touch on West Wyalong. Now, Sunny Corner is our 3rd project. We own 70% of that. And Sunny Corner was, at one point before Broken Hill came on board, it was the largest silver mine in New South Wales. And in fact was such a rich grade of silver there was direct shipping ore to London. Potentially there might be some feedstock there down the track as we continue to develop the resource at Greenfield. Our aspirations are to become a producer. We in fact lodged an EIS in 2013, only to be greeted by a collapse in the gold and silver prices within days of us submitting the EIS back in April 2013. Nevertheless, as Dr. John Greenfield indicated before, flexibility is key. And so as a company, we've restructured our strategy to continue with this aspiration of becoming a producer, and with Greenfield, of course, leading the way with its resource. It's got a JORC 2012 compliant resource of 21.8 million tonnes, including 33 million ounces of silver, 86,000 ounces of gold, and about 300,000 tonnes of combined lead zinc, right near the surface. So it's quite a nice resource, and it remains as an option for production in the background. We, in our EIS, submitted a heap leach project to the government for consideration, and as you would know, the heap leach has a much, much lower capex and lower operational costs, so economically it actually looked like it was going to work at the time. Now that remains on the back burner. There's still some opportunities perhaps getting that going and generating some positive cash flow. Meanwhile, exploration remains the key focus of Argent Minerals as we move forward. Our strategy is threefold. Top of the list is exploration. That's our lifeblood. Chemfield is the flagship project as we explore some potentially very rich grades of base metals and possibly some copper and some gold, in addition to the huge silver resource that we've got there. Capital efficiency is key to running this company, and since approximately September 2013, we've managed to achieve more than $2 million in research and development grants. These have been very carefully put together. They've been approved by Oz Industry and paid to us. So, of course, every dollar that we raise that way has not had to be involved in diluting the shares of the company. So up until we did a recent cap raising in December last year, we'd only diluted our shares by about 10.5% since a whole batch of options were triggered in 2011 with the run-up in the silver price. So pretty good record in terms of managing the capital of the company. And of course, more recently, we received a grant from New South Wales Trade and Investment, for which we're enormously grateful, as one of the top five largest grants that was issued by the New South Wales government, and that's been put to good use right now as we drill the Chemfield project. And of course, I've mentioned production as being a key tenet of our strategy to generate cash flow. So, Chemfield, situated in the Lachlan Origin, and very specifically amongst a terrific neighbourhood, only 40 kilometres from Cadia. Granted, it's a different style of deposit, being VMS compared to porphyry. But we've got some very good neighbours there with North Parks and also Cowell, which is only about 37 kilometres north of our West Wyalong project. Chemfield is specifically situated on the western margin of the basin that's known as the Hill End Trough. And amongst there, we're in good company as well. All of the purple dots on the map, going down as far as Captain's Flat and our friends from Woodlawn there, they're VMS deposits. And even though the Cobar, of course, had some geological events after initial VMS deposition, it nevertheless can be argued that it's a VMS on a basin margin. So that's where we're exploring with Chemfield. And we've engaged Professor Ross Large from the Centre of Research, Excellence in Research and Deposits in the University of Tasmania. Got about 80 staff on board and a leading authority in VMS deposits. And he came up to Chemfield, did some work for us, and recognised Chemfield, particularly one area of the deposit, as having similarities to the Kew River resource in Tasmania. So when he looked at the outcropping, which looked to the rest of us as normal sort of silver barite outcropping, he took one look at it and said, this is Kew River. And so it's indicative of Kew River type footwall and hopefully some rich grades with base metals, which we've already had some intersections of, which I'll come to in a little while. So the peer group for Chemfield is very specifically Eastern Australian Paleozoic VMS deposits. So that extends from New South Wales down through Victoria and right down to Tasmania, where we've got Rosebery and Kew River and Mount Lyell and so forth. It's all part of that peer group. Great peer group to be involved with. Plan view of the site. It's huge. 4 kilometres of strike potential there, and you can see some of the IP anomalies featured on that diagram. There's a lot more IP anomalies, but we haven't put them on the same diagram because they're different types. The resource itself is coloured here, colour-coded, where the blue colours indicate the lower grades of base metal, specifically combined lead zinc. And as we go up in grade, yellow, and then red, and then purple. So just remember that as a kind of the colours get hotter, the richer the grades. And there are 3 lenses. So there's an easterly lens, lens 1. As you can see, it's mostly the lighter colours we can see from this surface view. So it's mainly a silver barite dominated lens. And then lens 2, to the next one to the west, you can see some warmer colours coming in. There's lead and zinc occurring in that lens. Lens 1 also has some lead and zinc at depth. But as we notice as we go from east to the west, the grades of lead and zinc combined increase as we go further towards the west. And then the third lens, which we believe is the beginning of a lens that potentially goes up the same stroke length as lens 1 and 2, that one to the west, we made a recent find of some very rich grades of up to 18% combined lead zinc, which is extremely interesting, especially since they were noticed in a geotech hole. So I'll turn, and all these areas, before I go over the page, all the red arrows, of course, indicate that it's open, because you can see by the black dots there, that's where the existing drilling is. It's all concentrated in that area of the resource. Now, that's great because we've got a resource that is about 82% measured or indicated in terms of tonnes, but the drilling did not extend to the west towards this feature here, which is where we think the basin margin lies. And interestingly, just near there is a remnants of an old copper mine, a historic copper mine that was mined between 1901 to 1906. So Chemfield was originally a copper mine. So what do we have here? We've got grades trending east to west, increasing in base metal content and the appearance of copper right up here on the western side. Now let's just take a look over the page of the intersections. So, and that you can see that red arrow there. That's we're looking at a cross section. And here's the geotech hole that I was mentioning that's going to the west. All the other holes are going to the east because the lenses dip steeply to the west at approximately 70 to 80 degrees. So that's why all the holes are drilling towards the east, except of course for the geotech hole, which is looking at the competency of the rock for the open cut pit design. And at around 85 to 100 metres, we intersected over 18 metres. It was 10%, it's 9.8% lead zinc, 113 grams a tonne silver, and including 5 metres of 18% combined lead zinc and 260 grams a tonne of silver. Now, the work that Professor Ross Large did on this, and those of you working in VMS deposits will be familiar with the way that the deposits are formed, that there's a zonation coming from the high temperatures to the low temperatures. And so the colder temperatures, the lower temperature parts of the resource, you'll see predominantly silver barite, mineralisation, and as you head to the higher temperatures, you'll start to see increasing lead zinc, and you'll see potentially copper and gold. And that's exactly what we saw here in this scissor hole that's going towards the east, this AK136, and that's got 14 metres at 1.5 grams a tonne gold. To put that into perspective, the rest of the resource has just got a little sniff of gold, approximately 0.1 to 0.12 grams a tonne gold. So it's a reasonable credit to have, but it's nothing flash in its own right. But when you're seeing the increase of the lead zinc and then gold coming in at 1.5 grams a tonne, you can see that there's very distinct zonation occurring in this deposit, and if you look through our website and our ASX announcements, you'll see some recent work that we've done in quantifying the zonation within the deposit itself. So all of this points to richer grades to the west and also at depth. And so this is a model that's Vlad David has put together with Ross Large. There's different types of models that you can have for this sort of deposit, but this one that appears to be the closest to what we know about the deposit so far, the way that the lenses are close together and dipping 70, 80 degrees to the west. There's the pancake type formation of the various layers. as the black smoker, if you like, forced circulation currents up through the fault, circulation current there and a circulation current there, taking the deposition out across the seafloor at the time. And the seafloor is very clear in the drill core when you see it. So the grades there can be seen at the extremities, the blue representing the colder temperatures, red the warmer temperatures with lead zinc type mineralisation, and the yellow the highest temperature with potentially copper and gold. And so with the tectonic forces, this model says that the entire stack of the layers of the VMS deposit were overturned and tilted so they were 70 degrees to the west. So that would point to a feeder zone and more lenses out to the west. And to put it in perspective, this dotted line here is the existing resource, in which you've got the lens 1 with predominantly silver barite, lens 2 with a little bit of lead zinc starting to show, and lens 3 with those rich grades at 18%. So that's the exploration model that we're testing, and we've got 4 holes that I'll come to in a moment. This gives you a bit of a perspective of the interpreted lenses. Here's the existing lenses. You can see the lens blocks in the resource. Here's that rich stuff down here, and then a pattern of lenses according to the symmetry of what we've seen there, also aided by outcropping. So this plunge is also to the west, so we don't get any geochemical expression at the surface here, apart from the copper at the surface with that gold mine. And so this is the kind of deposit that you need to do some deep drilling on basically to discover. This is a diagram which shows some interesting work that we've done with a technique called magnetometric resistivity, or sometimes referred to as magnetometric conductivity geophysics. You'll know that zinc, particularly with the sort of mineralisation that we've got with failerite and sort of lumpy galena, it's not a great conductor despite the rich grade. So the downhole EM that we did on that rich hole with the 18% grade virtually showed just a small blip, not much at all on the downhole EM using the traditional techniques. But with MMR, what we do is we force current to flow through the ground. And the way that we do this is, and it works with longer type lenses of the length that we've got there, 1 to 2 kilometres, it works beautifully. And this was used at the Broken Hill deposit for the Potosi and the Flying Doctor deposits where they discovered the zinc lodes. MMR featured in the delineation and discovery of that resource. So basically we dig a pit. If you can imagine here, I'm just drawing this line of the lens, dig a pit to the north of it and dig a pit to the south of it by, let's say, a couple of metres by 4 metres in plan view, about 1 metre deep. Same here. Put some reinforced type wire mesh in it, a couple of bags of salt, fill it with water, you've got 2 electrodes. And then you hook a transmitter to it, and the transmitter that we used had a power rating of 70 kilowatts. So the ground is going to transmit electricity whether it likes it or not. It's like lightning. It's got to go somewhere. So it forces the current through the ground, and where the ground is more conductive is where the current flows. So the current channels through the more conductive part, and where the current is channeling, you'll get a magnetic field forming around that current, and you can measure that with detectors. And when we benchmark this against the 18% hole, we got a very distinct swing of a reading around the 85 to 100 metres that we had that 18%. So we've extended this technique. I won't go into details because of time here. You can look at our website and our ASX announcements to the work that we've done with surface MMR, and we've got some very interesting anomalies there that pretty much line up with the interpreted lenses, and we're testing that with 4 holes. First hole's already been drilled. That went to 500 metres. Nice deep hole. These are the deepest holes that have ever been drilled at Chemfield. The second hole, which we're in the middle of drilling at the moment, goes to 650 metres, and then there's a third hole which will also test interpreted lenses 4 and 3, and then we're shooting another hole underneath the existing resource to test it at depth, and specifically Lens 3 and Lens 2. So we're really excited about this drilling program. There'll be some results coming out shortly after we receive the assays. We'll be producing a report on all this, and we're looking forward to making a discovery here of high-grade base metals. It's there somewhere. It didn't come down from the sky. It came up from underneath. And the way that the mineralisation has been deposited leads us to clearly interpret that it's richer mineralisation as we go deep. The resource is open at depth. Most of the drilling has been shallow over the years to about 100 metres. So we're drilling into territory that hasn't been tested previously. West Wyalong, very quickly, we have a very nice magnetic anomaly which we did a high resolution scan on last year to confirm older government records that potentially indicated this anomaly. It's 1.4 kilometres strike north-south, west-east about 800 metres, and it is coincident with an IP anomaly, an IP chargeability high, and also this air core drilling in the surface. So you've got three classic signs of a very nice porphyry copper gold target. And as the Cowell mine runs out, I think it's in 2024, this is a very interesting proposition, being only 37 k's down the road. So you don't have the initial infrastructure costs associated with developing a mine. So two potential company makers. Why invest in Argent? Well, clearly the market cap understates the fact that we've got such a large resource and such a large opportunity. We've got a methodical approach to exploration, and everybody who looks at it gives us very positive feedback saying, yes, we like this. Of course, the government and itself with the funding, that's encouraging that we're on the right track with our interpretations. And we're focusing on zinc, which the market likes, so it's not just precious metals, it's a polymetallic strategy now, with real evidence of high-grade lead and zinc. And as the Century mine comes off production this year, I think it's in the second half of 2015, the potential shortage of supply versus demand of zinc will become more pronounced. Strategically positioned in a very rich area, and we'd like to think that we've got a management team that has a good track record in coming up with discoveries and managing mining companies. So thanks very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you to all our speakers today. Before we break for drinks, I'll just introduce Charlie Dowsett, our Executive Director for Industry Investment Team, and say a few words now.
First, I just wanted to apologise. I was supposed to be here the whole time. I got called away at the last minute. Unfortunately, just putting out another fire for our industry, but I think it's resolved now, which is a good news. Firstly, I wanted to thank our speakers. Applaud the industry. Exploration is doing it tough. We know it. Your enthusiasm for what you're doing is probably one of the reasons why I'm in this industry and been part of this industry for 20 years. I think the important message for you guys in the industry is to know that we understand what you're going through. We are looking for ways to support the industry as best we can, and certainly the Minister understands exploration, understands the importance. The cooperative drilling program is although it's probably not enough and we're not what we want, we're doing the most what we can with the limited resources that we have. We are looking for other ways of supporting the industry. That brings to us to I suppose an opportunity to plug events like the Symposium in Broken Hill, which is supporting our industry and development, and that's in May. We have our own biannual conference in end of July, where we are dedicating I suppose a run over 2 days in 8 segments. One of those segments will be dedicated to exploration. I suppose we're finalising the way that we're going to present that. I think it's we're trying to get as many juniors opportunity to talk at that conference. So please be aware of that. That's coming. I think we've done it in July to allow the election issues to be done and dusted and resolved, and we have some policy initiatives that are coming through. That gives the government an opportunity to actually present to the industry as well, to tell you what we're doing and how we're trying to help the industry going forward. Lastly, I'd like to thank Wayne for organising the event. He's been doing this for a while now, and it's, we appreciate any feedback on how these, how we can improve this. We are putting resources as a group, in my group too, certainly a dedicated person in exploration, and also on the mineral side, we're revamping our way we approach and market and help develop the resources industry within New South Wales. And I think I'll leave it at that, because we invite you for a refreshment, and the opportunity is actually for everyone to actually talk amongst each other rather than listening to someone from government, I think, on that side. So thank you, and welcome.